So we're going to try something new here today. Since I want to get this out fast, so I'm going to keep it simple. So about a month ago, there was this interview I did where I was asked if the music business is rigged. And my answer got me, well, inundated with a lot of questions. Then I put up a video last week that brought it up again. I tried to give more clarity, but it seems like it invited even more questions than answers. And it doesn't help that some people who are the type of music business gurus who talk instead of think are, as usual, spreading bad information. And this results in that I have tons of depressed musicians on consulting calls or in my comments or DMs thinking their dreams are never going to come true since the music business is rigged. So if you watched my recent video on this feed or this reel that spread across Instagram, you heard me answer a question about whether the music industry is rigged or not. And I answered something like that it's rigged at the top, but at the bottom, it very much is not rigged at all. Meaning that if you're trying to go from, say, being an artist that has 3 million monthly listeners to one with 120 million, well, yeah, a lot of what gets you those monthly listeners is that you have to play ball with some people and sign some contracts, and it's very unlikely you're going to get there unless you do that. And that's rigged, since the people you have to sign contracts with have access to those audiences and the levers to pull to get you there. But if you're just trying to go from 0 monthly listeners to 3 million or so, where you could make a pretty nice living for yourself, I mean, let's put a big asterisk on that since everyone's definition of that is different, but the point is going from 0 to 3 million monthly listeners is very much not rigged. Now, but before we go forward, let's define what the word rigged means. The dictionary definition is that something is manipulated or fixed in a dishonest or unfair way to achieve a specific outcome, often to favor one person or group. Now, here's what I mean by the music business is rigged at the top. The fuckery that happens at the top levels of this business, where we see so many manipulations happen to try to secure #1 album slots, is absolutely insane. But let's start with why a #1 album matters. Once you have that, you can get many doors opened, major network TV appearances that still move the needle a bit, tour venues and festival slots that allow way more money, which you can use to fund and get brand deals and make real money. You can demand way much more from the people you make deals with. But what about the lower slot at the bottom of the music business I talked about, where you have under 3 million monthly listeners? Well, right about that point, you start to qualify in people's eyes who give out things, aka gatekeepers, for a lot of the opportunities like late night shows, big songs on some big Netflix show that will take you up to millions more monthly listeners, brand deals, opening act slots on arena tours, getting placements and cover on playlists, and most of all, sick budgets to work with top-tier creatives with good ideas that make your artistry and videos more appealing to audiences that get them more engaged and talking about you more, which is the most powerful thing. So this brings us to a thing that all these clowns who talk about the music business, who say the music business is rigged and that major labels are dying, well, they fail to understand something, because usually they're frauds who don't actually work with artists. So why do most of the acts who are offered major label or big indie deals take them around when they get to around 1 million to, let's say, 6 million monthly listeners? It's because when they are offered these deals, the labels show them all the unfair advantages, aka the rigging of the system that exists at that level and what you get by being on a major label or a big indie that you don't get when you're on your own. This could be an army of fan and influence accounts like I talked about in my last video, which is linked in the description or at the end of this video. It could be that they guarantee them a ton of brand deals, which will help fund things that the artist wants to do. Many producers and songwriters give preferential treatment to the labels they have deals with, even in genres like metal, country, or indie rock, since the producers and songwriters know the deals get paid and the contracts are solid. If they do well by these A&R, they keep getting top-tier clients. So the artist then realizes the only way to get in with the producer and songwriter of their dreams is the connections in the label's little black book, which could also be things like getting them in Hot Topic, or the producer-songwriter that made all their favorite records, or the sick mixer who made your most recent favorite song. Well, that's all available if you just sign on the dotted line. But you may be wondering, how does that make it rigged? Well, these labels know the plays that really work to hit goals, like getting a #1. The labels are up on the latest tricks to get that #1 record, and that could be on a load of different charts, since all these charts matter in different ways. In fact, they also may just know the songwriter who has a backlog of 6 songs that they have untapped and, well, will hook their artists up with since they have a great relationship with them. This all adds up to that while it's not impossible, it's very unlikely that you get to be one of the top artists past that around 3 million monthly listeners mark. So let's talk about the mark right above that. So in most weeks, around 15 million monthly listeners will put you in the top 500 artists on Spotify. And as I write this, my favorite band, the 1975, is number 493 at nearly 17 million monthly listeners. But the Gym Class Heroes are at about 15 million, and they're not in the top 500 right now, though I've seen them in there many a times. So it's around in that range that you qualify for that. And if you want to see this for yourself, the list of the top 500 artists on Spotify is very public, or you could look at the lists on Chartmetric with the most movement. So when I say rigged, let's make clear what that actually means, since it's an oversimplification. If you want to be one of the top 500 artists in all of the world, well, unless you're an EDM artist, it's going to be very, very unlikely that you make it into that top 500 artists for a long time. I've seen plenty of the viral artists that really have some momentum get in there for a few weeks, but they usually don't last in there for more than just their quick viral moment, unless they team up with a major label or big indie and give them a big cut of profits, and have them manipulate the system with a playbook of best practices and the many deals they have in place with partnerships and access to gatekeepers that help make fan bases grow a lot more. But they also have access to a lot of resources, which is why they can do things that manipulate the charts. Like, for example, both Morgan Wallen and Playboi Carti recently released albums with around 35 tracks to drive up first week streams, to get them high enough metrics to keep getting those top slots and huge numbers that they can brag about when they're trying to get these artists bigger and bigger deals. Since these type of things open gates to gatekeepers, the knowledge and playbooks they have that they know work is what does that. And it also gets them the other thing that really opens these doors, which is, of course, Grammy nominations. But I'll tell you what, if you like this format of video, comment Grammys and I'll do a video on just how rigged that game is, since I've seen it firsthand many a time. But what about small artists? Since some of you really think that it is rigged for you. And a lot of these music marketing gurus love to talk that if you don't have a bot army or pay off influencers or have rich parents or a sick manager who's sleeping with one of the top TikTokers, you're never going to get any attention or go viral or get past 10,000 monthly listeners. Straight up, this is stupid. And there's so many people who watch these videos and are in our members community that did this without any of this bullshit I just mentioned. The fact is, every week on the consulting calls I do with artists, I talk to on average 5 to 10 I've never talked to before every week. And every week or two, one jumps on who's shocked that they thought the algorithm hated them and they were rotting in algorithmic jail with no one hearing their music, and then they finally figured out how to get out of that jail and they start to blow up, and now more people are hearing their music and they're frankly shocked about it, since their dreams are finally starting to come true. It's not true that it is rigged at the bottom. It is not true that you need all of that bullshit to get ahead. And let me be honest, there'll be more ups and downs along the way, even if you have a bit of viral success and people start to hear your music. But it's so great at first to go from that feeling of the algorithm hates me to changing something up, and now people are hearing your music. And for some of them, that goes on to be a sustainable career, and some not so much. But there's an infinite amount of factors as to why those routes happen that we can discuss some other time. But for those who don't buy it, I just made one of my members only videos that I'll link in the description on this dude Pacific, who's just been grinding, posting numerous short form videos daily, and they've now gotten around 300 million views, as he was regularly going viral with this song, and it now has 2 million plays on Spotify. He made his dream happen and told the story on the TikTok that's on the screen now. I see this happen all the time, and I'm heartened that we are in one of the best periods I've ever seen for musicians getting their music heard with less effort than they ever have. Since frankly, if people fuck with the song, they blow up. And it's not just from TikTok. As evil as Spotify is, there's tons of artists whose stories are getting that attention from people loving their song and it blowing up in the Spotify or YouTube algorithm. And that's sick, since these algorithms actually do reward friends sharing songs they love with other friends of theirs, and then it puts you on browse pages. I see it all the time. And we dreamed of that for so many decades. Now, I should say, you'll get compensated worse for these plays than you ever have before, but that's a much longer conversation we will hopefully have in another one of these videos, since I have a lot of ideas on how we're going to start solving that in the next year, and I've been working on a lot of things behind the scenes. So if you want more of me just saying the record straight, comment below, and most of all, do what sets the algorithm off and send this to someone you want to discuss music with and get closer to keep upping your friendship. Now, if you want to learn the thing I see growing fans for artists the fastest, it's fan and influence accounts, and my video on that is on the screen right now, so watch that. Thanks for watching, y'all.